So again, what is the society going to do with the troubles in Ireland? John May and Martin Merriman have returned without being appeased. They were not able to meet with the governing body in America, a trip they had financed themselves. But now Lloyd Barry, one of the governing body, is being sent to Ireland to do something anyway, but they want to know if they'll be able to talk to him, and apparently, well, we'll see what's going to happen next. Ray says, I found personally interesting the comparison of the handling of their case and that of my own. The inequality of application of the Society's own policies. Testimony that I had eaten one meal with a disassociated man was counted as sufficient grounds for taking disfellowshipping action against me. Here, by contrast, were men who had spent 5 days and nights in the home of this same man, had eaten with him and me numerous times, discussed issues with us for hours on end. The governing body was informed of their 5-day visit, and yet no action was taken against them. And then Ray speculates as to the reason for this. I think the reason is evident. The branch office was well aware of the attitude of Irish witnesses, their disinclination to be dominated and dictated to. They knew the respect with which these men, both of them, were held by witnesses throughout all the north of Ireland. They doubtless felt that they had a situation on their hands that made it politically advantageous not to take any strong measures. However, similar to my own case, about 6 months later, a circuit overseer, E.G. Watt, was sent into the Dublin area. Not long afterward, a judicial committee was formed to investigate John May and Martin Merriman. When John told Circuit Overseer Watt that their sole concern was to know the truth of matters, he was told, what is true or false, right or wrong, is not the point. Is it in harmony with the Society's policy? And are you talking about it? This statement brought John May to a point of decision. He thereafter submitted his resignation from the organization. He felt he could no longer support a system that operated according to such standards. Martin now became the focus of attention. That's Martin Merriman is still at large. The circuit overseer visited many of the witnesses in the Dublin area, inquiring as to any statements that Martin might have made. A number of these phoned Martin after the visit to tell him of the questioning going on. This was the action of a society that the Canadian representative described as a very open organization that allows for a great deal of individuality. Martin was cited for a hearing. He notified those in charge that he wanted in writing 3 things. Who would form the committee, what the accusation was, who the accusers were. Returning home one day, he found Circuit Overseer Watt there. Watt told him that he did not need the information in writing, a remarkably opposite approach to matters than that which had been presented to Martin in Brooklyn, where he repeatedly was told, put it in writing. Martin spent about 3 hours in finally convincing the man that he had a right to such information in writing, eventually taking a piece of paper from one of his children's notebooks for the information to be put down. Watt gave the names of the committee members and then said there were no accusations and no accusers. Martin did not accept that, and finally Watt wrote that the hearing was to, quote, discuss the situation that is disturbing the congregation, unquote. Martin felt that Watt's visits and interrogations were the factor that had produced the greatest disturbance among the witnesses. He asked Watt to sign the paper. It took another half an hour to persuade him to do so. On a Saturday afternoon in the Dun Laoghaire Kingdom Hall of Jehovah's Witnesses, the hearing was held. More than 40 witnesses expressed to Martin their desire to accompany him to the hearing. He accepted the request of only 20 of these. The judicial committee, composed of the branch coordinator, the circuit overseer, and a local elder, were startled to see these people at the hall. To their credit, they listened to the testimony of these people, that Martin had in no way endeavored to stir up matters, had, to the contrary, tried to avoid creating any disturbance. For Martin, the most surprising incident in the hearing came when he began to recount to the committee the phone conversation he and John May had had with the chairman of the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses. The branch coordinator interrupted Martin to tell him that they had already heard the tape. Momentarily stunned, Martin said, "Tape? What tape?" The branch coordinator appeared somewhat flustered and then said that the governing body had sent the branch office a tape of the telephone conversation. Thus, if any have doubt as to the content of that conversation, related earlier in this chapter, that content is confirmable at Brooklyn. This is why I have earlier expressed the thought that my telephone conversation with Chairman Albert Schroeder in the spring of 1980 is similarly confirmable. The strange concern to have on tape what others said was now plainly and undeniably compounded by the governing body's admitted secret taping of the phone conversation between Lyman Swingle and the two witnesses from Ireland, John May and Martin Merriman. In the next segment, Martin Merriman leaves Jehovah's Witnesses.